Alright guys, so in today's video we're going to be building a full custom exhaust on my GMT 400, and this will work for pretty much any car, but for today's application it's on the GMT 400 and we're going to be doing it with a Harbor Freight welder. Now, can we do that? I don't know. It's going to be my first time building a custom exhaust, so... Alright, so for today's video, the parts I got for my exhaust system are these Summit Racing headers. I like them because they're made in the USA and they're supposedly a really good fit on my truck. And that's just a hassle I didn't want to be messing with, banging headers and adding headaches. So I went with these shorties. They were made in the USA, which I really like. They got a thick flange. A good price. They were around like 200 bucks. I'll be putting all the part numbers down below in the description. But yeah, these are the headers I went with, and plus I didn't want to deal with trying to run some long tube headers, especially with my truck that's a 4x4. So but this is going to be much better than what I had on there before, and I am going to be modifying these actually, and I'll let you know why later. And this is the muffler I'm going with. Actually, it's a Jones 2.5 inch. The whole system's going to be 2.5 inch, 2 in and 2 out. The system's going to be a true dual, and it actually, I don't know if you can see there, I don't know if you can kind of see, it's actually got an internal X pipe. But we are going to be attempting to make our own H pipe closer to the engine. And then I got these high flow cats, and these are pretty much just the cheapest high flow style catalytic converters I could find on eBay without the bungs. We'll see how they go. And piping, I got a whole piping kit off eBay, and it is mild steel because mild steel was half the price of aluminized steel. So this is what I went with. We'll just have to put a better coating on it. We're gonna have to paint it so this could last, but it came with 4 90s, 4 45s, 4 180s, and 4 straights. And the fourth one I'm actually practicing on it right now. And then I also got some hangers from eBay, some cheap hangers. And then we're actually gonna be doing V-bands. I've never welded V-bands before. I've always had pretty good luck with the 3-bolt style connectors, kind of like what's on the end of my header. But I wanted to try these out. They were actually, these ones I found on eBay were actually just as cheap as the 3-bolts. So we'll find out if I could weld these up or if they're any good. And I also went with ARP hardware for the headers to try to prevent any leaking. A lot of people complain about leaking with headers, but I think as long as we got some pretty good hardware and some good gaskets, we should be good. I'm actually going to use the gaskets that came with the kit. They look good to me, but we'll find out. Back to why I'm modifying the headers is because these are meant to be a direct fit, which is actually great. It's got the O2 bung already in there. You don't have to weld that up or worry about that. And it's got the ball style connector, which you can connect to your stock exhaust system. But what I didn't like was how small the opening is. And here we can actually measure it. You can see that. That's less than 2 inches. And these are already some small headers, so I'm trying to get as much horsepower as I can out of them. And this one, I cut it off, and we're almost at 2.5 inches. So that's part of where I'm modifying the headers. And I did get some collectors that were gonna work with the ball flange style from Headman Headers, but I'm just gonna end up using the flange and cutting off the ball flange from it. And the other modification I'm doing is, we'll see here, the welds in here kind of protrude a lot in the piping, and some of these other ones, see, I've worked it and kind of ported it out, and it actually makes a huge difference. So just a little bit of extra work will be getting us some more horsepower. See right there, it's like almost 1.5 inches. And right there, 1" 15" compared to it's not that huge of a difference, 1" 24" on this side, but every little difference helps, and it actually has like a lip on the back of it. So, I mean, that's up to you. I don't think this is a must do, but you know, I got a Dremel, and you know, I'm just gonna work it to get a little bit of that extra power. But down here, I mean, I guess if you want a direct fit, you don't have to cut these off, but I'm building a whole exhaust system, so I think it's actually better just to cut off the ball flange and almost get a 1/2 inch bigger of an exit on this exhaust system. Alright, so since I'm cutting off the ball flange and reworking the flange on here, the surface might not be perfect, so I went with these thick Mr. Gasket collector gaskets. They're aluminum, and they'll really form to any imperfections in the metal and give us a good seal. Okay, so I always recommend to, especially if you're an amateur welder like I am, and with having the cheapest welder from Harbor Freight, that's not helping either, but practice your welds, especially when you buy universal exhaust kit like I did, the exhaust piping kit. You have enough exhaust piping that you can actually practice quite a bit, and it's just gonna make your whole exhaust system that much better. And yeah, I'm not expecting to have beautiful welds on my exhaust system, but I want, you know, some decent ones considering the welding setup I have, and definitely functional. And that's what I'm going to attempt today. So the goal with this exhaust system is to obviously make more horsepower. That's why I wanted to do the whole exhaust system. But I actually wanted to make more horsepower and actually have a quieter ride when I'm not full throttle. So I am going to be testing it with this decibel meter I have. And we're going to be testing it idle, 2,000 RPM, and 5,000 RPM from inside the cab and from a couple feet behind the bumper. So here I have the old exhaust system taken out. Still got to remove the headers, but it's pretty much stock. Looks like that had changed the cat a couple times. So it's kind of cobbled together there. It's actually next down before it even goes to the cat. And then it's from the cat back, I actually added this. It's just a Flowmaster exhaust, 2.5 inch. And it's a 1 in, 2 out in this configuration because it's meant for an F body. Just had it laying around. But up here is stock. And these pipes are smaller than I actually thought. You actually measure them. Two inches compared to the 2.5 inch piping we're gonna have on it, true dual. So in shipping, a lot of my pipes were banged up on the end, and that won't work like that. So what I got was I just rented this pipe expander from O'Reilly's. We'll be able to repair that up real fast. So I just removed this bracket that connects the power steering pump to the alternator and braces it. And then over here is where it hooks up to the exhaust manifolds, right here on the driver's side of the engine. And a lot of people, when they run headers, because these connect to the cast manifolds that come originally on the truck, a lot of people have just completely not run this and said it's run fine and they've gotten lucky. Some people say they've deleted this and the alternator, the aluminum bracket where the alternator hooks up, snaps off. So pretty much what that does is it braces up here, braces the alternator by connecting it to the power steering pump and the exhaust manifolds. So instead of just deleting it and hoping for the best, I'm actually gonna go somewhere in between and just chop off the exhaust manifold part, so that way there still is some support on the power steering pump. And judging by the fact that people have gotten away with not running it at all, this is gonna be a perfect solution. Do a little bit of paint on it. Can't even tell. And it's still supporting the alternator bracket. Now it doesn't have the extra 2 bolts on the manifold, but it's still supporting the alternator bracket through the power steering and should prevent any alternator bracket snapping. So here we have the bracket installed again. We just chopped off this extra piece that connects to the stock original cast manifolds, and as you can see, there's 1 bolt here, 1 bolt in the front for the alternator, and the 3rd one is here. So this one does provide a lot of structure and support, and some guys get away, like I was saying, some guys get away without this when they put on headers. Some guys it snaps right here. So I think this is a perfect medium. I think there's a reason GM put this on these. Be honest, I'm straight up not having a good time because I gotta drive this truck on Monday to work and removing the old exhaust manifolds. I broke 2 studs on the passenger side. 1 stud on the driver's side was already broken, and 1 other stud messed up the threads so bad on the cylinder head I can't put a new bolt on. So I'm missing 4 out of the 16 bolts. Yeah, so I'm just gonna finish the exhaust. That'll buy me some time. I'll be able to drive to work on Monday since this is my only vehicle, and that'll give me time to get a game plan together on how to repair this, because I'm gonna have to remove the cylinder heads to repair those studs properly. So it looks like there's gonna be a part 2 on this video. Alright, so this is what I use to make my H-pipe. I got a small drill bit for a pilot hole. Got a 2.5 inch hole saw since we're making a 2.5 inch H-pipe. And you'll see this is how the holes came out. And then after I finish cutting the holes, these are the pieces that came out, and that's how you'll get your angle. So I just laid the pipe on its side, and there's your perfect angle that you need. And that's how I got the shape on the H pipe like that. Let's see if I could do this with one hand. So to me, I couldn't ask for a better fit. Now there's a small gap there. That's a pretty good fit. Like, that's from the inside right there. So yeah, pretty easy, pretty simple. So a product I did use was anti-splatter spray, and it seemed to help out a lot with the splatter, especially since we're using a flux core welder. These headers fit really well without having to hit anything. They just bolted right on. The one thing you would have to modify on these GMT 400 is the dipstick tube. You're gonna need to cut the bottom flange of that. And on the other side, you guys saw the cutting I had to do on that brace, which used to go to the exhaust manifolds right there. But besides that, these fit really well. The O2 bung's in the right spot. So, you know, I recommend these headers for the price. They seem pretty well made. All right, guys, so this is the finished product, and I'm happy with how it came out. So one of the big concerns I had was the stainless components I had, like the catalytic converters, V-bands, and muffler, because the welder specifically says you're not supposed to weld stainless steel, but hey, it seemed to weld just the same as the mild steel. But yeah, overall I'm happy with it, especially since I made it, you know. Makes me more excited to have it on my truck. But yeah, the welds aren't perfect, as you can see. Part of it's the welder, most of it's probably me. You know what? I'm not a professional welder, but hey, you gotta learn somehow. And yeah, definitely, I think it's gonna be a huge difference. I'm excited to see how it's gonna sound, and it's definitely much better than what I had on there before. Alright guys, so this is where I'm going to end this video. There's definitely a lot more to be done, but the system's done. I wasn't expecting there to be a part 2, but with those 3 broken exhaust studs in the engine, there's definitely got to be a part 2. So that's why I'm not going to do the sound test on this video or the decibel test until I fix it properly, and then I'm going to have to paint the whole exhaust system. The black coating on the headers is actually just a temporary coating for shipping. My idea was, let's burn it off and then it'll be easier to prep it for paint.
So I'll probably just paint it in part 2 as well. We'll see if I'm right. But yeah, definitely a lot more work than I thought it would be, but overall still pretty fun. Pretty happy with how the exhaust came out. Can't wait to hear how it sounds. Anyways, I'll see you guys on part 2.